Welcome. I am Denise Fowler. I am the director of the Career Center and Alumni Services for the Trachtenberg School of Public Policy and Public Administration at George Washington University. We are thrilled to have Department of Justice joining us today for our graduate students and alumni. If I'm just muting some people here. For GW graduate students, as well as graduate students throughout the country through the NASPA network. This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for everybody. Just as I had mentioned earlier, for people, if you're in a position to turn on your camera, please do change your view to speaker view so you can look at all of our speakers who are spotlighted. I will be monitoring the chat, and there will also be opportunities for Q&A afterwards. And this program will be recorded and put onto the Trachtenberg School's video hub. And I will put that into the chat once we get started so people know where to find this. So again, just really want to thank Department of Justice who reached out to me a while ago with an interest in connecting to the Trachtenberg School graduate students. And we had a conversation about wanting to open this up to GW and then throughout the country to NASPA. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mattia to start the conversation. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having us. I am Mattia Ayers, the director with the Office of Human Resources with the DOJ OIG. And with me today, we're going to have Carol Tarasca. She is our Deputy Assistant Inspector General in the Audit Division. John Paul Cove, the Program Analyst in the Audit Division. Allison Russo, who's a Deputy Assistant Inspector General for Evaluations and Inspections Division, or E&I. Mike Pinot, who is not with us today, but he was supposed to be. He is representing the E&I as well, with Courtney Vanderpool, E&I's Administrative Manager. I'd like to start today with some background on DOJ OIG. We are an independent entity of the Department of Justice whose mission is to detect and deter waste, fraud, abuse, and misconduct in the DOJ, and to promote economy and efficiency in the department's operations. Our Inspector General, Michael Hortz, is appointed by the President subject to Senate confirmation and reports to the Attorney General and Congress. The OIG consists of the immediate office, Office of General Counsel, and 6 divisions. That's going to be Audit Division, Evaluations and Inspections Division, Oversight Review Division, Investigative Division, Information Technology Division, and Management and Planning Division. The Audit Division and Evaluation Inspections have representations with us today, which I named earlier. And in a few moments, I will turn it over to them so they can tell you more about the work that they do and the attributes that they are looking for in prospective employees. But before I do that, I want to take a few words to talk about a federal hiring process. So applying for the federal job can be a very daunting or if you're unfamiliar with the USA Jobs website. But once you visit the site and you pursue job openings, you'll get the hang of it. If you have not yet signed up for an account, please do so. You can go to usajobs.gov. I encourage you, please do that. Once you have done that, you can enter your name, or you can search different DOJ, OIG positions and see what our current openings are. We will be sending the openings to, I believe it's going to be Ms. Fowler. We'll send them to you. And also on occasion, we do post our job openings to Handshake and LinkedIn. So with that, I'll now turn it over to Carol Tarasca, the Deputy Assistant Inspector General, so she can have a few words.
Thank you, Mattia, and welcome, everyone. I will say good morning. I'm located in Chicago, and so I'm in a different time zone, and so it's still 11 o'clock and still morning here. I hope you all are having a great day. Mattia gave you a little bit of background on our organization. I'm going to sort of pick it up there. For those of you who are unfamiliar, and I suspect that there might be some of you, I know I was when I was in school, I was not familiar with the Inspector General concept, but the idea of Inspectors General is something that grew out of the Watergate era of the 1970s. And essentially it is to promote good governance and the safeguarding and proper stewardship of taxpayer funds being used throughout all of government. And there were different IGs in different areas, different cabinet offices that were established at different times. We were established in 1989, and we have grown obviously since we were first created. And right now we have about 550 positions. We're still pretty small, is what that means. We oversee all of the Department of Justice, which has over 100,000 employees and a budget that unfortunately I don't have at the tip of my tongue, but in the billions. The department is obviously responsible for a lot of very important aspects of American life. Law enforcement with the FBI, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the U.S. Marshal Service, corrections and incarceration through the Department of the Bureau of Prisons, the Federal Bureau of Prisons. The Marshal Service coordinates with the Bureau of Prisons on people who have not yet been incarcerated but are being detained. So we have both detention and incarceration. There's some relationship there, but also obviously a very important part of the Department of Justice. And then there's the prosecutorial side through the U.S. attorneys and other specialty offices that do all the litigation for which actually the U.S. government is a party. Obviously, that could involve criminal acts. It can also involve national security. By way of example, the department manages the terrorist watch list and the screening of individuals for ties to terrorism. The Department of Justice also issues a significant number of grants and contracts that help throughout the country. So the department might give a grant to a police department in Wichita, Kansas, to hire police officers that will work locally to help that community particularly in the area of community policing or other interaction with individuals at that taxpayer or community level. There are, like I said, a lot of areas that the department is responsible for. It's a very broad area in which to work as far as an office of the Inspector General. The people that we hire, therefore, have to have a broad base of knowledge. So you might know something about national security, you might know something about criminal justice, you might know something about grant making or policy making, but you can also have none of that and come in and learn it. And that's where a lot of the people that come to our organization start from. There is a lot to learn. Don't be daunted by that. I did not know a whole lot when I came to the DOJ, which is now over 30 years ago, but it is learnable. It definitely is learnable. OIG work is fascinating. It's incredibly fascinating. We have a lot of responsibility for reviewing how your civil servants throughout the Department of Justice, how they deliver for the American taxpayer. So if someone's doing something wrong, if FBI agents are not executing their authority properly, then we're there to do an audit or a review or an inspection to find that, to be transparent about it, so that everyone knows, and to make recommendations to the FBI and to the Attorney General to fix those issues, to put controls in place so that those, whatever went wrong, so that it doesn't happen again. But you don't, like I said, you don't have to necessarily be an expert in any one particular area to come and work for us and to learn the way and to be successful helping the OIG help the Department of Justice achieve its mission. I can't remember if Mattia mentioned this or not, but the audit division is the largest division within the DOJ OIG. We have about 200 positions of the 550 that the OIG has. And we're located throughout the country. We have 6 regional offices, San Francisco, Denver, Chicago, Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. And our headquarters is located in Washington, D.C. So we're very interested in you, even if you are attending GW, but you plan to go home to Denver or to California and plan to look for work in those home locations, or you're willing to work in those locations. Our offices are about 25 to 30 people each. And in those positions, I know Mattia said that it's so important to get a USA Jobs login account. If you're familiar with federal hiring, and Mattia can maybe fill in here a little bit later, we hire our entry-level positions are at around the GS7 level. We do have internship positions, both for individuals that are pursuing an undergrad degree, as well as if you're pursuing a graduate degree. And where you fall in that salary or general or the GS pay scale is very dependent then on where you are in your educational journey if you're coming in as an intern. But for full-time employees, they're starting around that 7 or 9 level. And our positions have a journeyman level of a GS13, which is very high on the GS scale and is a great career in which to start. It provides for a lot of opportunity for advancement in those grade levels, and to which you have a great deal of empowerment and a responsibility to exercise judgment on each of your assignments. Everyone who works for us definitely learns a lot and is responsible for learning a lot. It can be a very rewarding career in which you are helping, like I said, some of the most important pieces of our government do their jobs better, and to make sure that the taxpayer dollars that all of us contribute every single day, that they're put to good use. We are a relatively flexible workplace. Our current requirement is that we do require people to do in-person work. Right now, that requirement is 2 days per 2-week pay period. And so we have a very flexible situation where people can telework. But we also think it's very important for people to do in-person work. And from an audit perspective, it's essential for people to be able to do in-person observations of work that's being performed, whether it is at an FBI field office or at a U.S. Attorney's office, if it's a Marshal's task force that is hunting fugitives. We want our auditors to be doing observational work, in-person observational work of those activities that the department is carrying out. Don't expect that just because you hear audit division that it means that all of our staff has an accounting degree or is a CPA, because that's not the case. We are a very diverse workforce of, yes, CPAs, but also people with public policy backgrounds, people with business administration backgrounds, finance. We have people with communications backgrounds. We have really a wide variety of disciplines, or I should say of academic backgrounds that people are bringing to the table who work for us. And there's a very wide variety. If you do get an opportunity to look at vacancy announcements, you will see that it is not a narrow scope of types of degrees that you should have. It's a very wide and broad list of backgrounds that you can come from with your degree in order to be eligible for our positions. The type of individual that we are always looking for, I would say, and I'm guessing that that Allison will probably say much the same. We do look for people that have a lot of the same characteristics, and we partner together for sure. But we're looking for individuals that really are inquisitive, that are problem solvers, critical thinkers. In almost every project that you undertake here, you're going to find something unique that's going to require you to just think through the problem to figure out the direction to take. And so we need people who have great instinct for what comes next. And that's I shouldn't say it's easily learnable, but it is learnable here from people who can role model this for you the veteran employees that we have. And like I said earlier, it's really just a very rewarding career. It's very interesting work, very, very interesting work. I've loved every minute that I have spent here. I came here, I said, fresh out of college, and have enjoyed, and really have enjoyed myself here.
Okay, if that's so, then I'll take it to E and I, Allison, if you wanted to jump in.
Sure. Well, again, my name is Allison Russo. I'm here representing our evaluation and inspections division. I think my colleague Carol provided a fabulous overview of our organization in general, our mission, our structure. I agree with everything she said, and I can add my particular spin on it, and look forward to our discussion today. I actually started in the audit division, although I did not personally come from a financial background whatsoever, came up through the liberal arts track. And we're just very excited to speak with you today. We're very interested in recruiting and hiring students and alumni with backgrounds like yours. And so some of the attributes we have in mind when we say that include a public service mindset, and experience adhering to rigorous academic standards. Again, just those general critical thinking and research skills. There isn't a whole lot of specialized experience that we're expecting you to bring to especially our junior graded positions. It's our general philosophy, at least in Carol's and my divisions, is that as long as we can bring in some smart, motivated people, we can teach you the ropes and allow you to excel in this career path. The folks who tend to succeed the most in this organization are individuals who have a lifelong learner mindset, who are open to new ideas, who are energized by new topic areas. That's one of the reasons that I'm sure Carol and I have stuck around in this organization for so long, just because the Department of Justice umbrella covers so many aspects of operations. And so you can be in this job for 5, 10, 20, 30 years and still learn something new every day, which can be very energizing for a certain kind of person. And again, just open-mindedness. I did want to reinforce the idea that we are an independent oversight entity. So just cautioning folks that we're not out to set a particular policy outcome or achieve a certain policy agenda. We're really in the interest of good government in general and assessing the department's adherence to their stated goals and objectives. So I thought it would be useful for this audience to just highlight a little bit things that jumped out for me as to why you should consider a career with us at Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General. At the top of the list for me is just getting to make an impact. And so it's a really unique opportunity to work in our organization. Pretty much from day one, you'll have opportunities to go out with teams and have direct access to a lot of leaders and officials within the department. And I just found that fascinating, especially as a junior employee, getting to talk to folks, getting to talk to Deputy U.S. Marshals, folks in positions like that, and just hear about what they do and apply an objective perspective on, are things working efficiently, or if we have a third-party perspective on, are there improvements that can be made? So really having that concrete impact on offering suggestions for how to improve the functioning of government. That's what got me hooked from the beginning. A lot of our work culminates in recommendations that we make to the department, and then department leadership is obligated to take corrective actions that are responsive to those recommendations. And that's where the rubber really hits the road with our observations and then seeing real change effectuated as a result of those observations. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a flavor of the kind of experience you might have if you came to work for DOJ OIG, especially the divisions that Carol and I are representing. Again, that's the audit division and the evaluation and inspections division. Just for example, thinking back on my own career, I've had opportunities to go all over the place to lots of different types of facilities, again, within that very broad DOJ umbrella. So that includes FBI training facilities at Quantico, domestic violence and human trafficking shelters throughout the DMV area, institutions of academia over on the West Coast, and even federal prisons throughout the country. And it's a select group of people who get to go to prisons voluntarily, and it's fascinating. And another thing that's kept me in this organization personally, it's a career path that you can feel good about at the end of the day. And I just really think highly of our senior leadership and our colleagues across the board. It's just a really talented, smart, dedicated group of people who are committed to the mission of the organization. And I think it's something worth considering for you all. We wanted to make this introduction, give a sense of what we are all about as an organization. In general, as an organization, we have a series of vacancies and announcements we anticipate making. We have several that are live now, and then keep an eye on us. We anticipate keeping or making successive announcements in the near future. With that, I'll turn it over to Courtney if you have anything to add at this point, or we can kick it back to Mattia.
No, that great info from both of you. I think the job postings, we have a couple that are opening today, and then a few, we're always going to be posting. So I can put the OIG career link in the chat for everybody to have, and I know Denise will be sharing info with you for you to send out later as well.
Yeah, so with that, as the lady stated, we will be sharing our open positions with Denise, so she'll be able to send it out. But if you guys want to start with your questions, if you have any questions, Denise, I'm not sure how you want to, if you wanted to open that, I saw your chat. Feel free to type questions and raise your hands for Q&A session. We're more than happy to address any concerns. I'm here from an OHR standpoint. You want to understand about the pathways or recent grads programs or anything like that. We're all here. More about the positions in general or the offices. So we'll try.
Fantastic. Looks like we have Michael who has raised a hand, and please feel free to everybody else that you're welcome to raise your hand or type in your question, whatever your preference. So Michael, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Do we need security clearance for these jobs?
So sorry, Michael. One of us should have said that. Yes, you are correct that the vast majority of the people that work for our organization do have top secret security clearances. It is that is our cost. It's not something that anyone needs to pay anything for, just so that you understand how that process works. You should know, if you're not already familiar with that process, it is invasive. It's a lot of questions. You do have to provide a lot of information about your history, but it can run very smoothly from the applicant's perspective. It isn't something that requires a lot of attention from you once you fill out your application. You would have an interview with an investigator. It is also something that takes place generally after you start. We do a limited background review before someone comes on board, but it isn't until after there's an approval process that has to be finished based upon that limited background work that's done. And then the full security clearance is normally done while someone is on board in the early stages. And obviously that has to clear successfully. So if there is something that happens, I would say that that's incredibly rare, because that limited background process that's done before someone starts is pretty effective at identifying issues. But your top secret security clearance would then be granted once that complete review is finished after someone is on board.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we have some, actually no questions online. Let me see, do we have some other questions that people want to raise their hands? This is your opportunity.
It can
Ask
be
any and
any
all.
kind of question. No question is a silly question. No question is a stupid question. We wanna be here for you and address any concerns, issues, or you can talk about a past experience applying to a position, and then this is your opportunity to speak to, people out in the field and also HR representatives. So I would definitely, please, there's a hand.
Great, Michael.
Hi, it's me again. Sorry, I just remembered another question I wanted to ask. I was looking at the OIG's career page. I saw there's special agents positions. Do special agents have to carry firearms or no?
Our special agents, depending, yes, most often will have to carry a firearm, but depending that position is also in that announcement. So if you read through that announcement thoroughly, it will definitely tell you, but most will, yes.
Okay, thank you.
While we're waiting for questions, I'm going to ask two questions that I often get in the career space regarding this. One, for students earlier in their career, they often want to know, and actually the question that's coming in is along with my second question, so that's great, and I'll be asking that, is how much, particularly earlier students earlier in their career, how much some of their academic experience, papers that they've done, help them, classes that they've done, internships, but also the academics get through, help them get through the screen. And with the second question was what Anna was alluding to, how do you, things that you would advise on the application to help get you through the USA job filter? And then I would have the second part of that, if you're into the best qualified category, to get pulled out for an interview. So I know there's a lot in that question, but these are questions that we often get in the career space.
I can jump in if you like. Allison, I see you starting. I'll go
Tia,
after you.
why don't you start off with from the OHR perspective, and then I can flesh it out.
Absolutely. So yeah, so I'll speak from an HR perspective since we are the first point of contact when it comes to your application. And the hiring process normally starts with that application. Then depending on the position itself, you may have a specific questionnaire, a USA Hire questionnaire, which has started in the last year or so. And I know a lot of people are really taken back by it because it is an exam that you take. It's full of questions that last maybe 60 minutes. It can take up to, and it sticks for about 6 months on your record. So that's just the first part of the screening process that we go through. And then after you clear that process, you'll then be able to upload, if that position requires that education or some type of specific certification. So you'll be able to upload that. And again, you'll see that in the required documents section. So I always tell people, read the announcement thoroughly to see what's required of that full application. And the required documents section will tell you exactly what you have to submit so that you're not screened out or deemed ineligible. So I'm only speaking on the eligibility portion of this. So paying attention to the required document fields from an HR specialist standpoint is a must, okay? That will let us know that you provided everything to continue on to the next step of then going to a manager, a hiring manager to be interviewed.
Okay, and I can round out that answer from a hiring manager perspective. I will say, as we're crafting at least the questions that we have visibility on, I just want to let everyone know we do understand, especially as you're coming from an academic environment, you're earlier in your careers, we're not necessarily expecting you to have directly relevant experience in all areas to start out in a career with us. What we're looking for is general critical thinking skills, ability to collect information, analyze that information, draw conclusions, pull together the big picture. So that's how we're crafting some of the questions that we develop, at least on the hiring manager side. And then from the academic standpoint, we do look at GPAs. I have pulled transcript, looked through those. And then if for folks who make it through to the interview process and also entries on their resume, we are interested, especially if you're lighter on the actual professional job experience, academic experience, coursework, research experience. We do see that as fairly transferable, especially for our junior positions. And those are a lot of the examples that come up in our interviews with candidates for our junior level positions, and encouraging our candidates to talk through, okay, this is the problem or the research question I sought to address or answer. And here's how I thought about that problem. Here's how I collected information. If you used any specialized tools or analytical software to answer that question, we're very interested in hearing about that, because it has applicability in our world as well. And then how you pulled together what you found in terms of messaging. A lot of our work culminates in public facing written products of various shapes and sizes. Some of those are lengthy reports, others are more graphic heavy, interactive type dashboards. We certainly appreciate data visualization skills more and more in recent years. So those are some of the things that we're looking for.
If I could add, I'm seeing the questions here asking about internships as well. The grade levels match up to some of your the requirements, but we've got full-time positions as an auditor or program analyst, and that includes recent graduates. So if you've obtained a degree within the last 2 years, or I believe it's 6 years if you're a veteran, you can apply for that. And then there's also the normal public announcements for full-time positions. And then there are also the Pathways internship positions for folks who are still in school, and you can do part-time work, and your expectations are lower, and it's expected that you will be learning on the job while you're also going to school. So that is a really great opportunity to get in as an intern, learn, network, and then if possible, be converted to a full-time position once you graduate. I'm a GW alum, and I joined the precursor to Pathways, started with E&I and converted, and I'm still here. So it is, and we have some excellent current students and recently converted folks who are top-notch employees.
While we're sharing testimonials, I'll add, I also found this career path through a career fair. And like Carol, had never heard of OIGs when I was in school. It's not something I was tracking, but the more I learned about it, got to know the folks I'd be working with, saw the products they were producing, that's what drew me in. And then this organization just is really great in supporting career advancement, career development, training, and on-the-job development. And it's a really great place to progress.
I'm going to pick up on that too, Allison, just because I did see that there was a question in the chat too about training. So like Allison said, our organization is very supportive of the training needs of our staff. Every division within the OIG receives a significant budget for training, and individuals are encouraged to continually develop. Training looks different for each individual, depending in large part on what you're bringing when you come in the door, whether or not you're an advanced employee or if you are entry level. And we try very hard with our supervisors to tailor development programs for each individual. We are a small organization, so there are some instances in which that smallness makes it a little bit more difficult, because we don't have, for instance, self-built training programs that are very large. We have some. I think both E&I and Audit here represented have some orientation level and some beyond orientation level self-built classes that are taught by veteran employees within the organization. And we hear pretty continually that those offerings are some of the most appreciated by our staff, because you're learning from your peers, or I should say, you know, the individuals that are a little bit more experienced than you. They might be sitting in the next office though. However, we do, for the standards that our audit staff need to comply with, we have a requirement for 80 hours of developmental training every 2 years. So obviously that works out to about 40 hours per year. Generally, our staff receive much more in the way of training than that, and I believe it's the same for our E&I division. Training is not an area where there's a lack of opportunity, and there's a very broad base of subject matters through which you can obtain training, whether it's from the department or from outside associations, etc. I should also mention, because I don't want to scare anyone, I did mention earlier that for our auditor positions that we are looking for candidates from a very wide variety of backgrounds. The audits that we conduct are what's called performance audits for the most part. We do have a financial audit staff, and those individuals generally are accounting majors or CPAs. But performance audit is different than a financial audit. And if you're not familiar with that, there are government audit standards that discuss performance auditing, which look at, as we've been discussing, whether or not government entities are achieving their mission, whether or not they're operating effectively and efficiently. And those are things that that people from a very broad type of background, a very diverse expected workforce, can achieve.
I see we have a lot of questions flying in the chat. Denise, do you want me to tackle a few of those that jumped out?
Yeah, I mean, I think starting right at the top, it seems like that I mean, we still have 20 minutes left.
Okay.
The first one that I think we haven't begun to start to tackle is all the way back up. I'm just looking for where it started at. It actually went fairly far back up.
There are a few I think I can hit quickly, so we could knock those
Yeah.
out and maybe dive into some of the others.
Yeah, I think we started with the what you could speak, what it is typical day, but you're right, a lot of these do go together. And some of these we did already just touch on.
Okay, so I saw one about if we're open to folks looking to switch career paths. Sure, that certainly wouldn't be a disqualifier for anyone. And if it means that you have other professional or academic experience that you're bringing to the application, I think that could set you apart, actually. I think I saw something about an age range. I definitely don't think that there are any restrictions there. I'll leave some of the questions on pay and announcements that are currently open right now to Courtney and Mattia. I did see one question on cover letters, which I can speak to. I know those can be time consuming, especially if you're applying to a number of positions at any one time. They are something we open and read if they're part of the application package. I would say at least recently that tends to be the exception rather than the rule with the application packages we're getting. So in that sense, it could set you apart. I will say we put a premium on writing skills and ability. So if that's a strength of yours that you can highlight in a cover letter, that would get our attention. I'll also mention that at least in our recent announcements for my division, we've included as part of the vetting and selection process a request for a writing sample that we do in basically real time, because it's something we want to make sure we're looking for and assessing as we're evaluating candidates, because that really is a core aspect of the job here. I saw another question about interview questions or interview discussion topics. We're obviously coming to those discussions from the employer perspective, but from the applicant perspective, we do always give applicants an opportunity to ask questions during the interview process. I will say I'm always amazed at the number of applicants who don't seem to have opened our public website, even after getting a call back and getting scheduled for an interview. So pro tip, look at the website of the prospective employer. That will go a long way, and bonus points if you could cite to a particular example and have actually read it and thought about it for a few minutes. It's shocking how few applicants we could say that's true for. So that definitely is a mark in favor of folks who are evaluating. And I know the typical day question could vary depending on who answers that, and that could get more interesting. But I'll pause there if there are any other administrative questions we want to knock
There,
out
there
first?
were some administrative questions. There was a question about disabilities in Schedule A and how your office has accommodated employees.
Yeah, so we do have a reasonable accommodation for those particular individuals who, and we don't ask anyone to disclose what their disability is. That is something that if you do ask for a reasonable accommodation, you'll get something from your doctor. Your doctor will send something to our office, and then we'll go through our reasonable accommodation process that way. So there is a process for reasonable accommodations for those with disabilities. As far as hiring people with a disability, we do have I see it Schedule A there, and that's in our accepted service. So if there is an announcement or if there's not an announcement, anyone who is, considered falling under that Schedule A disability accepted service authority, you can apply. So if there's not an announcement or if there is, you can just send your resume, and I'll plug in our OHR inbox for you. I send that to you. So those applicants can apply at any time without exception if there's an open announcement or not. So you would provide your resume, your Schedule A letter, and any other providing documents you wish to support. And then basically state you're interested in an opportunity with us, and then we'll speak with our hiring managers to see if you're a good fit and if there's an opportunity available. But we do have that process set, and also have reasonable accommodations for those who are then employed with us.
I
Uh,
also saw a couple questions on pay or salary tables. So as a government employer, we're set by the OPM, Office of Personnel Management, set salary pay tables for federal positions. And you've heard us use the shorthand GS, GS5, GS7, GS9. That's a grade level designation, federal wide for positions. Our entry level positions tend to be in that 579 range. And then we have a very attractive career progression track where you work your way up that scale in pretty rapid succession up into the 12, 13 range. And I just pulled the data at least available from this past year. And when we're talking about that journey person level in the 12, 13 range, that's where you're getting into the 6-figure range. So we can drop the specifics in the chat. That's driven by your location as well. There's a base salary. And then if you're, for example, in the Washington, D.C., greater D.C. area, there's an increase there. And then for a lot of the different metropolitan areas around the country.
I believe Jean Paul did drop something in the chat. And might be, is that the DC table? We can put the other table up there as well.
Another logistical question that came through is I think someone wanted to confirm that you mentioned that you have offices nationally in about 5 to 6 states. Someone can apply to that as long as they could telework from those states. Is that correct? As long as they were still able to meet your telework eligibility?
I would say generally, yes. The OIG does not currently have what I would call an expansive remote work capacity or program. So we do in the audit division have offices located in 6 cities: Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Atlanta, Chicago, Denver, and San Francisco. And we do have an in-person work requirement for 2 days per pay period. There are some positions that we have that can be located remotely, but they are relatively few and far between. I want to be upfront about that. We do value some in-person work, but also value that workplace flexibility. I think that industry in general, business and industry, has learned a lot from the pandemic. That you can see I'm actually working from my home today, and it's been a big transition for a lot of individuals. We do a good job, I think, to try and really balance that for people, where our in-person work requirement is obviously important, but it's on the lower end. But it also doesn't mean that that's the maximum. It is expected that people will be in the office when they need to be in the office, and that especially for people that are just joining the organization, to be around others and trying to learn from anybody that they can encounter. So I just will plug that a little bit, that you can learn from people in the same place, that there's a lot to learn if you take advantage of that. If I could also just take a really quick opportunity to echo what Allison said earlier. I'm a strong believer, really strong believer in cover letters. That's your place to be creative and to tell us why you want to work for us. You'll see in our announcements generally that cover letters are preferred. We don't make them required, but we do like to see them. Like I said, that's your place to be creative. Allison has mentioned we do a lot of writing here, both our public products, which, you know, that is something very important. We issue some very robust products that we are putting out for everyone to read. Some of those are lengthy, some are shorter. But if you look at them, you can see the quality of the work. It's pretty obvious. It will present itself to you, I think, through those products. So writing capacity and writing quality does matter. It is, though, something we work on and hone with people here once they're here. That doesn't mean that it would be impossible to think of this organization, even with thinking about the future and different types of oversight products that we might produce, interactive dashboards or some data analytics products. There is still the written word. So as a mom of some 20-somethings, I will say that I'm always encouraging people to read as much as you can and to make sure that your products, whether it's your resume or your cover letter, reflect a really good, strong command of imparting information through that written word.
I'm scrolling through the chat
Yeah,
trying
there
to make
was
sure.
one question. There was one question that was really specific. Is there a series number that differentiates performance auditors from financial auditors?
There is not. It is the 511 for those of you who are familiar with the series number. This is something relatively recent that the Office of Personnel Management has done. So 511 works for financial auditors, performance auditors, and then attestation personnel.
Another nuts and bolts was, is relocation or housing assistance available?
So if there's a relocation available for that position, it would be in the announcement. So not all of our positions have it, but some do have it. So you have to see which ones that are in the announcement that will offer the relocation.
And just to circle back to the job series discussion for a moment, the codes, the 343 is the program analyst position, and those are the ones that we're announcing in our evaluation and inspections division. And it's a pretty generic position that covers all those skill sets that we were talking about earlier in the call. And Courtney, did you want to just take a moment to walk through what we just have announced?
Yeah, I think what's live right now, and I think somebody mentioned it in the chat, is the Pathways Policy Analyst Intern position. Now that's a 399 series, which is just the internship position, but that particular announcement is basically the intern level of our program analyst work. So you would be doing mostly program analysis work. You'd be able to you'd be on an evaluation or inspection team. If your school schedule allowed it, you could travel with the team to do the site visits that we've talked about. And you would also have some administrative duties along with those program duties. So our interns, if they are administrative interns or policy analyst interns, they're still helping support the office. And so you'd have some work mostly under me for this particular posting to make sure that the rest of the offices has equipment, has the resources, has the everything that it needs to do the program work. But it's a really good way to get to know the workings of the office and the other divisions within the OIG. So you're getting a lot of experience in how things run, how things are supported, and then you're also doing that program analysis work. So it's pretty well-rounded.
And I will emphasize these early career positions, particularly through the Pathways program, are a really excellent way to get your foot in the door to government service. Many of you may be aware of this, but it can be difficult for us as federal hiring managers to reach a wider talent pool. And in a lot of ways, because of federal hiring rules, for a lot of announcements, we're restricted to folks who already work within the federal government. So this is one of those exceptions to that premise. So if you're interested in public service in a government career, this is a really great way to get in that path. I saw one. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oops, really quick. I was just going to add on to what Allison said and Courtney about the GS7 policy analyst intern position. We use the same on the audit side. It's sort of a core position here for the OIG. And so when you see an announcement on USA Jobs, it should be clear as to what division it is, or it could, I suppose it's possible, it could be a multi-division announcement. So just be prepared for seeing that from either of us.
I think our administrative internship positions are more generic. You might apply and any division that is looking for an admin intern could pick you up. And that doesn't mean that you're locked into admin work or support work while you're an intern. It's basically your first step, and you'd be eligible to apply for a policy analyst internship position that if one came up after you were on board. The other thing I wanted to mention, we talked about training. We have a solid mentorship program within the OIG, and all Pathways interns, and I'm assuming recent grads as well, are given a mentor from either your division or another division who will work with you at least for, if not your first year, then maybe your entire intern career with the OIG, and any employee can request a mentor at any point with OIG.
And I want to make sure we turn to a typical day in the life here. But just there was one other thing that jumped out at me in the chat, and it was a term I hadn't heard personally before: quiet hiring. I want to dispel any preconceived notions you may have about that, especially for our junior positions. These are general announcements. We don't have anyone pre-selected in mind. We're trying our best to reach a wide and talented potential applicant pool and find the best person for the job. And that's part of our motivation for setting up discussions like the one today. We want to go beyond just posting a link publicly and hoping for the best. We want to get out there and connect with potential applicants who might be interested and try to explain a little bit more why this might be a worthwhile career path. So for typical day, I guess I'll kick that off so we get started on that before we run out of time. It really depends on the phase of the project that you find yourself in. Most of our work is conducted in a team environment that's often anywhere from 2 to 5 people on the core team. We start out with preliminary planning. That's basic research, publicly available sources, sources within our organization, subject matter experts, past work in a similar area, pulling together a foundation for what we think we're going to be walking into. And then for most of our projects, they involve some aspect of on-site work. So that could involve going to any regional or local office at any of the department components. So FBI, DEA, US Marshals. It could be a federal prison. It could be a grant or contract recipient who is getting Department of Justice dollars. So that could take you to various parts of the country. And a lot of what we do is sit down with folks and just ask them about their core job duties, how things are going, and then pulling that all together into a big picture. So we call that evidence collection or information gathering. And then there's always a phase where we come back to our offices, we convene as a team, see how everything fits together. And if there are any risk areas that start to emerge or areas that we think deserve more attention or a recommendation for improvement. And then there's a pretty intense process where we pull together through our drafting phases, the written culmination of what we were finding, and then working with our senior leadership on the messaging and publication of that. So Carol, did you want to elaborate there?
I will just add the all-important quality control phase that comes into that process as well. And really quick, the process that Allison's E&I division and our audit division, the processes that we use are very, very similar. Our work is very, very similar. And So what Allison just described works just as perfectly as a description for how the audit division does its work. And then also, just to sort of put a really fine point on it, positions in both of our divisions also require travel. I think of that as a great thing. I've traveled a lot with the OIG throughout the United States. I've also done some international travel with my OIG work to do, again, you're just looking at its department activities that happen to take place overseas. But back really quick to the quality control, there is a huge part of our work is to make sure that the information that we have concluded, the reports that we are developing, that they are above reproach quality wise, and that we're providing the decision makers, both in the department and elsewhere, with the information that they need to make your government work better for you.
There was one other question that came in right at the end before we wrap up, was regarding lateral mobility within the office. And we'll maybe use this as the final question. If one is hired in one division, skill set in the other, a little bit more on that.
I guess I could take that
I was
one.
going to say, Allison, I think that's perfect for you.
Sorry if I'm considered a traitor. I started in one division and migrated over for an opportunity in our evaluation and inspections division. I'll just reinforce, if anything we're describing on this call is appealing to you, I'd be open to working in either position. If you're an interested applicant, it's largely the same skill sets. So just keep an eye on the vacancy announcements and throw your name in for whatever seems to be applicable to you. But yes, there is a good deal of lateral mobility. We also have detail opportunities. So not necessarily a permanent transfer, but if you want to broaden your skill sets or get a feel for a different operational area, that's something that happens frequently as a professional development opportunity too.
We use the phrase one OIG. So if somebody is best suited to one division, then we'll see what we can do to get them into the right division.
That almost seems like a perfect way to wrap this up with the concept of the one OIG. Is there anything else that you all, before we wrap up today, that we want to share with the attendees?
I'd just like to share my thanks. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being interested. Thank you for educating yourselves and wanting, or at least considering, public service. It is, like I said earlier, it's very rewarding. So thanks for coming today.
Thank you, all of you. This was the first time we've offered this program. Hopefully we will continue to do this and educate students, educate alumni, increase your pipeline. So we are thrilled to have this partnership with the Trachtenberg School at GW and throughout the country. So thank you all today. And as I mentioned, the recording will be available. It will be sent out to the NASPA schools as well as on our video hub. So thank you.
Thank you.
You all.